Hi, so I'm going to talk about my solo performance and basically the idea behind my performance and how it progressed. To begin with, my solo performance was completely different to what I actually did. I began, well, my initial idea, what I really wanted from the beginning, was to do something that confuses the audience. I didn't want it to make sense, basically, and I didn't actually have an idea still until one day in December, my watch stopped working, and I looked at the time, and it just wasn't ticking, and all of a sudden, like some words came into my head. I thought about doing a head sequence like that, like to show how a clock ticks, and say this is how a clock ticks, just as a brain ticks, but what happens when the brain stops ticking. I quite liked that dialogue, and I wanted that to be repetitive throughout the whole solo performance, but it didn't go. That idea just it went downhill because well, I explained the idea to Teresa. I told her that I'd want to wear a mask and go closer to the audience each time, like blackout lights, completely blackout, and each time there's a spotlight, I'll be standing in the spotlight in any position, close and closer to the audience, and then when I get to the audience, I would take the mask off and do something like laugh hysterically or cry hysterically, something that shows that wearing the mask keeps everything hidden, contained. Taking the mask off, I don't know, like the mask stops the mind from losing itself. I don't know, something like that. I explained the whole idea to Teresa, and she thought that I have a very scenographic mind and vision, but she felt like I lacked in meaning, and like I didn't have a reason for why I was doing it, no inspiration, nothing was personal at all. I don't know, I had this idea and that was it. And that's basically why I didn't go with that idea. And then, well, like going back to like our very first rehearsal within my group, we all came back to our flat and did a mind map of different ideas that we had. So this is my mind map. Basically, I have different ideas on there that like psychological, dreams, nightmares, the brain, confusion, lots of clocks, dream catchers, toys, lava lamps, Chinese music, lullabies, back projection. I had like basically just loads of ideas, and on that day I thought of another idea. I thought about doing dreams and nightmares. I wanted to show something bad happen on stage and show that that's a nightmare. Or, well, I wanted the audience to interpret it as in, is that a nightmare? Did it happen? Or is it like a nightmare, just like a random nightmare? Or is it me dreaming about a real life thing that happened? And they all asked me what makes me happy, what makes me angry, favourite moment in my life, etc. And well, Dave asked me what pisses me off, and Emily answered taxis and taxi drivers. She said Monica hates taxi drivers. I told them a story about why I hate taxi drivers and about what specifically happened a year ago when I went out clubbing, and from that as a group we thought about me trying out different actions that I did on that night out. So Jack and Emily played some music and I did 5 different actions. I was going to do it all in slow motion, but I felt like doing it in slow motion, the whole thing, I don't know, for me it felt a bit boring. Like I felt like the audience, they're going to know what I'm going to be doing next. So instead I thought doing some bits fast, some bits slow, and playing between that. I remember having a rehearsal with Lencha, just one-to-one, and she wanted me to do everything backwards, but I found that quite challenging, simply because doing things slow motion, like in the right way, is hard enough, but then to do it backwards, it is doable, but if I had more time, I would definitely be able to do that. But for me, in order for me to do that, I would have to like film myself and literally study all my moves, which I just, yeah, projection behind me, and I thought, well, if that's on projection behind me, then it has a better effect, because when I watched it back, to me it looked like I'm in 2 places at once. So basically, I felt like I'm on stage, obviously, but then I'm on the projection as well, and to the audience point of view, it looks like that's filmed live. Like really, I filmed that day before, but it looks like, because I'm wearing the same clothes, doing the same actions, it looks like I filmed that twice. And I found it but I got that inspiration from various different things, from Back to the Future, the movies. Obviously they go back to the future, they redo things that go back into the past. There's a scene where the main guy, he's in two places at once. He's in the past and in the future, but both times are together, so you can see him basically in the same room, and I quite like that. And also redo life. And also one last point, as I was talking just now, I was thinking back, I've actually used all my ideas that I wanted to use anyway. Like, as I was saying with the dreams, technically I have used that, because I start off lying down and then I get up, and really what I'm trying to show is a memory process of a night out. But to the audience it could look like I'm dreaming something, that I'm dreaming, or that I'm having a nightmare, or both. Because at the end, when I'm calling for a taxi, I do it in slow motion, like, oh, like I'm trying to call for it, but I do it in such slow motion, and I had the look on my face where, like, oh, I really need help, like that it could sort of look like a nightmare in a way. And so yeah, I've used dreams and nightmares, and I have also used psychological kind of elements, which is what my very, very, very first idea was. Because when I had the idea of wearing the mask, and the mask keeping everything contained, and when I take the mask off, it changes the psychological place that I would be in. I have used that in a different way in my solo, because I've used, like, the use of alcohol, and showing that when someone has alcohol, they can't remember very well of what happened in that night or whatever. And so alcohol has an effect on the brain, which is, in a way, psychological. It can be a psychological effect. So I feel like, yeah, I've used that idea too. So, not without realizing, I've actually used all the ideas I wanted to use, and made, like, a really, really good piece of solo work. For my very first solo work, I feel like I've done well, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to doing more stuff like this. Thank you.